These are my Dynasty rankings for 2024 and beyond. And every time I look at them, I want to change something. That's the God honest truth. I think far too many people, they pretend they have it all under control. They pretend that it's all unmovable, cemented in. Who's your top five rookies in 2024? And I think a lot of people are afraid to admit that it's volatile constantly. The wind blows a certain way, you re-rank it differently the next day. I can almost guarantee you that I rank this 12 differently almost every time I do it. And part of that is we're still digesting the landing spots of the 2024 NFL rookie draft class. But the other part of it is that I literally am getting more excited about certain players each day. Guys like Keon Coleman and his attitude, his drive. The fact that Josh Allen, news breaks that Josh Allen's like, you're the guy, you're the one wide receiver I wanted. We don't know how much he's stretching that, but it's certainly great to hear. Jonathan Brooks, you hear head coach come out and say we want to utilize him in the passing game. We want to get him involved in screenplays, suggesting he's going to be not a pass protection concern. You know, Brock Bowers, we all wonder what his value is. He doesn't have a quarterback right now, but this is a dynasty show. This is your dynasty rankings. And, you know, Shedeur Sanders or whoever ends up being his quarterback is going to change that dynamic tremendously. So why undervalue him here? Worthy, you got Rashee Rice news popping up that he's now in a potential, assault situation at a restaurant / club, whatever it was. I mean, God, it's ever evolving. Every day there's another, piece of something that makes us move these guys around. And I think it's ridiculous. It's unreasonable to suggest that you should even have a locked-in top five. And so we're going to talk about the volatility here. And this is my ranking as of the earlier show today. And I don't know. I think I might move it around. The Fantasy Football Show Dynasty Edition begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios, it's the Dynasty Fantasy Football Show.
File on in. Yo, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. And we're here to discuss where's my Dynasty rookie ranking page that I just had up? Oh, here it is. We're here to discuss this beautiful group of monsters right here. I mean, it ended up being a really solid, at the end of the day, a really solid class. You know, like we're worried about the running backs, and granted, I wasn't happy with the running back stable. None of us were. But what did we say over and over and over? Benji, no, this is not Superflex. Superflex would look far different. We can definitely discuss Superflex and how that would kind of change up, but I know my Superflex is not a horrible question, actually, because I'm not saying that I was suggesting it was, but because my Superflex rankings are different than most people's, because I don't just shove all the quarterbacks into the top 3 or 4 like a lot of other people. I don't look at it that way. But yeah, you'd be able to tell if it was Superflex. You'd have more than one quarterback in the top 12. But we can discuss Superflex, no doubt. I don't think that we necessarily have to have a show where we do just one. We can certainly kick that idea around. But what I was saying was, I mean, I think, honestly, I think there's so much ability to move these guys around just off of the news we've heard over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I know my rankings, and let me make this abundantly clear, my rankings are not my suggested drafting order. Because ranking shouldn't be, here's a list of what order you should take a guy. What good's that? Because if you're suggesting you should take these guys in this order, you're basically handing someone an ADP ranking. Rankings are sometimes way, way off of the ADP, and then it's your job as a fantasy owner to manipulate the ADP data, draft around it, steal Benson away, because no one else has Benson number 4 but this man right here. And dare I say, in a 1 QB, JD5 is probably higher than anyone's rankings anywhere. Because he's the only quarterback I have in the top 12 in a 1 QB top 12 rookie dynasty fantasy football ranking. But there's nobody that comes close to having dynasty 1 QB top 12 value at the quarterback position, other than Penix Jr. if he was starting. There's no other, and he's not right now, no other quarterback but Daniels, JD5, deserves to have the value. And Brian says Corley over Leggett. That's a totally arguable thing. That's what I was saying earlier, is like, you look at this thing and you're like, I don't know. The news about Corley now staying with Aaron Rodgers in his guest house, that's new news. You know, I haven't adjusted for that. This doesn't have an adjustment for the Rashee Rice Monday night assault situation, alleged assault situation at a bar / club / restaurant. We don't even know what it was at this point. People keep saying it wasn't a club, and people are like, it was a club. I don't know. I don't know what he's even doing out of the facility. Should just be there working out and keeping his focus. But no, this guy's out doing more crazy stuff. And I don't know what Worthy's value. I don't think Rashee Rice has a future past, a year of this getting strung out. I really don't. Once he's gone for an entire season, and I think he does get suspended, then how does he get the job back? But, looking at this ranking here, the only thing I can say, with certainty that will not change, the two things I can say with certainty that will not change, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s the number 1 overall player without a hesitation, equivocation. There's no stutter in my voice, nothing that's going to change that. Not to mention the number 1 overall wide receiver, but he's the number 1 overall player. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't care if you're in dire need at QB. The only QB that would possibly come into play is JD5 at the 1.1 in the Superflex. There's no way I'm drafting Caleb Williams over Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't care if I've got Sam Howell and Justin Fields as my 2 starting quarterbacks. I'm not forcing quarterback and drafting a position over a player. That's my own fault. That's a problem I need to rectify. Of course, I need to figure out a way to get a better QB situation. Maybe I'm trading out of the 1, because Marvin Harrison Jr. probably falls to, I would think, 2 or 3 so maybe you trade down and you're able to get a QB upgrade or something. But there's no way. Just because you think this guy should be going higher because he's a quarterback, I'm not doing that. Marvin Harrison Jr. in Superflex and in redraft is my 1.1. That will not change. The other thing, and that's in Superflex and redraft. Or, I'm sorry. Well, redraft too. Superflex and non-Superflex. Marvin Harrison Jr., my number 1 overall. Not going to change. Not going to change. And you might say, Smitty, but I need a quarterback. Well, then we got other problems to try and dissect and remedy with your team, but it doesn't affect my ranking. It doesn't. You got to trade down. You got to do something different. It doesn't affect it. Trade down, go to 3, and then take JD5. And solve your problem there and upgrade somewhere else. Get Jonathan Brooks somehow. Get an extra Worthy or McConkey or some other pick involved by moving down. But I am not going to tell you to not draft Marvin Harrison number 1 overall no matter what scenario you paint me. I'm telling you, Marvin Harrison's my locked and loaded cemented 1.1 Dynasty, Superflex, and Dynasty 1 QB. The only other certainty that's cemented into place and probably has 0 shot of ever changing is JD5 is my number 1 quarterback across the board. Doesn't matter the format. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anything. Doesn't matter if it's a touchdown only league. Doesn't matter if you get minus 15 points per INT. I don't care what scoring format you throw at me. This guy will dominate every single piece of it. JD5 is probably the clear-cut number 2 overall in a Superflex Dynasty rookie draft. So Marvin Harrison Jr. and JD5, 1 and 2 in Superflex, and then clearly this is the non-Superflex version. In Dynasty, you can't overlook the value of neighbors. You can't overlook the value of quarterback that's likely to enter the picture in 2025. They're going to make changes. If Dable doesn't get fired, he will cultivate a good quarterback. I'm starting to wonder how he's allowing this to happen 2 years in a row. If he's such a quarterback whisperer, How did he allow himself to be in this situation for 2 years in a row? Danny Dimes is a piece of fantasy football trash. Not as a person. I'm not saying that. But in fantasy football, he's a trash can. And he's not going to do anything for Neighbors. Not to mention he's not even going to be healthy for week 1. So Neighbors and redraft is a very, very complex, curious situation. The fact that anybody's still drafting Neighbors in redraft in the top of round 3, mid-round 3, has me scratching my head. I don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense at all. Adunze, these guys landed in the worst redraft spots you probably could have cooked up inside that 10, 12 range we were looking at. Adunze's in. Look, Adunze long-term should be fine. Keenan Allen's 87 years old. DJ Moore, I don't know how I feel about DJ Moore long-term, and I don't know how I feel about him in this offense, to be honest with you, because I feel like, and you could say this is a misstep or a brain fart or whatever, but when Caleb was asked to describe his entire arsenal of weaponry, he went through the entire list and did not list DJ Moore. I'm sorry, but that isn't a mistake you make. You don't get traded or drafted to the Arizona Cardinals and forget to mention MHJ. You don't get drafted. You don't go to a team like the Raiders and say, oh, I forgot to mention Devontae Adams. Like, DJ Moore is their star wide receiver. And I know Adunze could be that, but how would you forget to mention him? I don't know what's going on with that. I'm merely just telling you it was weird to me. So at the end of the day, long term, Adunze's probably this guy that appears in like Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, pre-NFL draft fashion, appears to be attached to the hip to Caleb. They're on the same flight together. We've seen this dance before with Stroud and Tank Dell. Caleb's like, draft him. That's essentially what we feel like happened, and that's good news, right? That's really good news, but that's long term. For 2024, even Dynasty now 2024, you have to ask yourself, like, how good can Neighbors and Adunze be their rookie years? Are we talking like an 800, 900 yards, 6 touchdown season? Are we talking about Christian Watson's rookie year where it's kind of spotty, but then he turns it on at the end and has amazing games, but sum total, he's still getting you 945 yards, maybe 1,000 even if you're lucky, and 6, 5, 4 touchdowns. How's Neighbors going to get in the double-digit touchdown range in New York when Saquon, one of the best running backs in the league, you wouldn't know he was? You wouldn't. People forgot. You're going to know this year because he went to one of the best situations he could have went to, one of the best offensive lines, one of, if not the very best offense in the NFC, and has one of, if not the very best quarterback in the NFC. And he's got one of, if not the very best defense now. Fangio's turning that bad boy into the number 1 or number 2 defense, drafting the 2 best cornerbacks in this draft class on top of a whole bunch of other stuff. This Eagle team is going to make Saquon Barkley look like a top 3 to 5 running back if he can stay healthy. That's the big crutch. But point being that New York is not a place to thrive. And if Danny Dimes does end up coming back, he's vulturing touchdown opportunities from Neighbors. Neighbors is not going to get a bunch of receiving touchdowns from him. If Danny Dimes doesn't work out, who's the guy? Really, like, who's going to do anything of substance and feed Neighbors 10, 12 touchdowns? So, from a dynasty perspective, extremely worried about Neighbors' now production. Extremely worried about Adunze's now production. Harrison Jr. is just, in my opinion, wide receiver 1 in dynasty, period. And I'm not even afraid to draft that. I'm not afraid to take him as the first drafted startup Dynasty 2024 wide receiver. I'm doing a Dynasty draft tonight. I'll take MHJ and I won't hesitate as the number 1 wide receiver off the board. I don't need to trade down. I don't feel like I'm getting cute. I don't feel like I'm missing out on some sort of value. I don't want to risk it. I'm taking him as the number 1 overall wide receiver drafted. So it's weak. This class is weak and it's strong all at the same time because there's so much hidden value and value that could have a late start blooming in Neighbors, Adunze, even Trey Benson, who's not going to start week 1 unless, Connor gets hurt. And then, oh, God, Benson's value is going to go through the roof overnight if something happens to Connor before week 1. But Connor is 29 years old. That's like he's already got his admittance to the running back nursing home. And he's staying there part-time right now. We don't know when he's officially moving in. There's no, he's going to ball out for 1.5 more. No, it's how many games? Is it the first month of football? Is it half a season? There's no way James Conner is staying healthy for a whole 17 games. And once Benson goes in, he ain't coming out because he's the future. So Benson, to me, like Neighbors, like Odunze, has that stunted growth component to the beginning part of his year. The difference is once he gets in, it's wide open for him. I think Connor might be, a thorn in his side. It could be some sort of committee a little bit. But Odunze and Neighbors have long-term 2024 problems in front of them. They're not problems that mid-season get fixed. Like in Benson's case, boom, Benson gets in, he's booming. Business is booming once Benson's in there. JD5 is going to thrive from the jump. So you got Harrison, boom, from the beginning. Neighbors, Odunze, kind of going to come in flat and maybe not do what we want all year long. And then 2025 is looking up for both of them. Benson, we're waiting mid-season, let's call it, but maybe hopefully beforehand. Not to mention you could draft Connor and Benson like this, cuff them, and you're set. JD5, explosion from the jump. Think AR5, but not getting hurt. What would that look like? AR5 would have been a top 5. He was a top 5 quarterback right before he went down. JD5 is just, he's magnificent. He's magnificent. He is the best quarterback in this draft class by a country mile. Caleb couldn't hold his jockstrap. Caleb couldn't even get him coffee if he wanted to. There's just nothing this guy has over Jaden Daniels. Nothing. Zero. JD5 is the better downfield thrower. He's the better pocket passer. He's the better runner. He's the better decision maker. He turns the ball over. You could say Caleb turns the ball over a small amount of times too, but no one does it better than him. 4 INTs. 4 INTs, 1134 on the ground, 10 rushing touchdowns on the ground. And as I said on my main show today, the crazy part about that stat is nobody should have 3,800 yards and 40 touchdowns passing while doing this. Because how do you have time and plays and opportunities still available to rack up nearly 4,000 passing yards in a college season with 40 touchdowns when you've taken away from yourself? It's kind of like opportunities, right? This guy doesn't have enough opportunities because the ground game's too good. Oh, wait, he is the ground game. But while he's taking away from his passing opportunities because he's running so much at 1134 and 10 TDs, he should have 2,900 yards and 18 touchdowns or 25 touchdowns because of the 10 rushing. But no, he has 50 total touchdowns, 4 INTs, 3,800 passing yards. He's the best gunslinger. Him and Penix Jr., you could make debates. He's the best gunslinger downfield. And for anybody that comes in here, and I dare you to come in here and tell me he's not the best downfield thrower or best pocket passer, I dare you. You're not going to call in. You know why? Because I'm about to shut you down. You're maybe dialing into the phone line right now. Let me show you the phone line number if you want to call in.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
And I'm not asking anybody to call in support of this. This is for, the phone lines aren't open yet. This is if somebody wants to say, Caleb is so much better throwing downfield, Smitty. He's not. You're about to look silly. This guy who says I'm 210 pounds, by the way, 6'4", 210 pounds, only throwing 4 INTs, was the best pocket passer in 2023 in FBS. First in TD passes in the pocket. 35. Wait a minute. This guy just scrambles. He's a running quarterback, Smitty. He's a running quarterback. I thought this was a gadget quarterback. I thought this was a Lamar Jackson. This isn't Lamar Jackson. This is twice the Lamar Jackson. that Lamar Jackson is. This guy's so much better than Lamar Jackson, it makes me laugh. Number 1 in college football in 2023 in pocket touchdown passes. 35 inside the pocket. Number 1 in FBS in yards per attempt. 11.5. 67% completion percentage on 20-plus yard passes in 2023. Best in FBS history, not only last year, in the last decade. In the last 10 years, no one has been better completion percentage-wise than this man on 20-plus yard throws. So where's your argument? How is Caleb a better downfield thrower than this guy? He's not. The problem is you were dialing into the phone line and you just hung up. And you said, shit. Last 3 games, 11 TDs, 0 INTs inside the pocket. His last 3 games, 11 pocket touchdowns. There's no argument here. It's the number 1 quarterback without a hesitation. And frankly, at this point, I'm embarrassed for anybody that doesn't see it. I'm embarrassed of anybody that thinks Caleb Williams is better than this guy. I'm embarrassed for you. You know when someone does something so embarrassing, it embarrasses you? That's how I feel right now. And if we go back to the rookie rankings, and by the way, no one dialed in. If we go back to, which means all of you are smart. We look back at the rookie rankings. Jaden Daniels, I might have just talked myself into putting him 4, right? That's what I'm talking about. The ebb and flow, the evolving, ever evolving rankings. It's so tough. And I think people are lying to you if they tell you, yeah, who's your number 4 ranking? Hold on a second. Let me look at my data because it doesn't change. What is this? PPR? Non-QB? 7. Here's me. I don't know. Yesterday it was this. Tomorrow it'll be that. Right now, wind's blowing little to the right. I'm going to say Daniels 5, Benson 4. Tomorrow it's Daniels 4, Benson 5. Coleman 6, Brooks 7. Oh, Brooks could be 5 tomorrow. And Benson could be 4. And Daniels just kind of depends. Kind of depends how I'm feeling. But I think my argument that I just made right here at 5 for Daniels, I made this argument so strongly that he's in a 1 QB 4 or 5. I don't think you could even put him 6. I don't think you can do it. And then if we look at I don't know. We look at like Brooks, we could definitely bounce around Brooks, Bowers, and Worthy. And I mean, I don't have Leggett or McConkey in the Brooks, Coleman, Bowers, Worthy tier, but this is so volatile right here. You're not wrong, and I'm telling you that right here. I'll tell you you're wrong if you have MHJ not 1. I'll tell you you're wrong if you have a quarterback above JD5. I'm sorry, you are. It's my show. It's how I feel. And, you know, you can have your own opinion, but I'm going to tell you you're wrong. But here's where you're not wrong. This 6 through 12, it's so debatable. You could convince me. You could sway me on a phone call. You know, McConkey, Smitty should be 9. Let me tell you why. And I'm like, yeah, you know. Worthy, I love Worthy, should be, 6 instead of Coleman. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. Brooks, Smitty, he's going to be so good. Why is he below anybody else? He should be right there with Benson or even ahead of Benson. I'm going to say no on ahead of Benson because I think Benson is going to absolutely ball out. He's like the closest thing to Breece Hall that can't be Breece Hall, right? He's the Marshawn Lynch. Breece Hall is the Bijan, the CMC. He's capable of being number 1 out of all RBs, Breece Hall. He's 8 feet tall. Jonathan Brooks and Benson, they're capable of being 6, 7, 8, 9 running backs for their whole career, 4, 5, 6 years straight. They could dance inside the 6 to 10. And that's where Marshawn Lynch was. So I like to compare, not that the style of play is the same, but Marshawn Lynch's fantasy value is always about 8 to 12, 8 to 14. And that's super high. That's low first round, high second round. And that's amazing to get that out of two mediocre feeling running backs to some people that land in ideal situations. Again, this class doesn't have elite top tier Bijan, Gibbs, Kyron Williams type players. Even though Kyron was not high draft capital, he is as elite as any of those guys. You can at me all you want. You can call to the phone line and argue Kyron. I don't care. I'm not changing my mind. You're talking about a brick wall. I'm not going to hear you. But Marshawn Lynch is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Overall potential, right? That's where he got drafted. So, God, Benson and Jonathan Brooks, they're so close to elite. They're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 overall capable. So, I could put Brooks 6. In fact, I'm kind of convincing myself to move Brooks and Coleman now. I mean, but Coleman excites me. In fact, I'm gonna. God, I want to do it. I want to do it for a minute and look at it. You know, and then I get here and I'm like, you know what? Bowers is going to get his quarterback in a year. This is Dynasty. Let's have some patience. Then I do this, and then I kind of feel really good about this. So that's what I'm saying. It's so volatile. I don't even think I'm going to give you much more of a lesson plan here on the 6 to 12 because I'm literally admitting I go through this. I'm bouncing all over the place. I mean, Brooks has such an amazing opportunity, and Canales wants to use him so badly in all facets of their offense. And I know that they're working on some things, so rushing him back won't be a huge priority, and that's good for his long-term value. But, I mean, God, he's going to have such an unbelievable opportunity. And Bowers being the best tight end prospect ever to come out of college, how are we overlooking him? You know, to even the tune of 6 or 7. Like, it really is hard for me to digest that. I almost feel like he's the most valuable player on the rookie rankings list that cannot be ranked higher, but 100% should be. But we have no ability to rank him higher. So by default, he's a de facto steal no matter what. Because no one can bring him up any higher than this, but he can absolutely crush it. So this is kind of how I feel about it. And I honestly, moving Coleman down to 8, kind of feels better because it gives the upside appeal still. I still think he could easily be 6 worthy, but Brooks and Bowers are probably safer. Guys, this is my top 12. I mean, it's volatile. 6 to 12 is volatile. This top 5 is not. It's potentially, something you could reorder in the confines of 4 or 5, maybe 6 getting in here. Like Brooks getting in here, Bowers maybe getting in here. Coleman's not breaking the top 5. Brooks or Bowers could. I don't know who I'd take out, but like I said, depends on QB need and quarterback scoring and things like that. But Bowers and Brooks kind of have a cup of coffee with this top 5. Marvin Harrison Jr. is in a tier of his own. Doesn't matter how good we think these other guys could be. And Mike P. I already answered this question. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the 1.1 in Superflex or non-Superflex. It does not matter. And anybody that just says otherwise is a QB drafting Superflex guy, and that's fine. But I set myself up and I set my followers up to know how to draft quarterback in their startup. And if you're watching my channel and you already have a team that's existing, I'll help you through it, but you're not going to hear instruction from me to be drafting a quarterback, but maybe JD5. You can definitely make that argument. All the arguments I just gave you. JD5 and Harrison are close, but that's it. Caleb doesn't sniff the 1.1 in a super flex, let alone inside my top 2 quarterbacks in a super flex or non-super flex. Dial into the phone line.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Call into the attic.shop phone line, and we'll discuss this ranking. I don't know how long we'll be here tonight. We say things like short show, and it never is. So dial into the phone line. Let me put the rookies back up. I'm trying to find that. Superfish coming in hot with a 10 spot. Rock Out dropping a 2. Cobalt coming in with a 10 spot. Let me throw these super chats on screen and then answer them right away. Sebastian, hang tight. No mouth breathing. Just mute it if you need to. Let me get these super chats out of the way. I got 4 of them that popped on screen. Benji dropping a $5 hauler. Benji's a monster. Let me start off with Rock Out. You can stay on the phone, Sebastian. I just said don't mouth breathe. Matt, stay on the phone line. Mute yourself if you could. Sebastian, just call back. Sebastian, please mute yourself. I'm going to go through these super chats, then come to both of you, starting with Sebastian. Superfish with a $10 hauler says, a novice at Dynasty, but wouldn't Malik Washington be appealing long-term in a high-powered offense? Tyreek has only has a year or 2 left tops. Malik is a high IQ, very physical wide receiver. Sure, not in the top 12, but yeah, he's certainly a guy that a lot of people liked. When I'd give like the next Tank Dell comparisons, and I'd say Corley and McConkey and Parasol and those guys, and now we talk very much about Baker. Baker's definitely a potential Tank Dell. A lot of people pre-draft would always throw Malik Washington out. Don't forget Malik Washington. So he's got a huge fan base. You're not alone, Superfish. It's possible. It's a good 2nd to 3rd round pick, no doubt about it. But he doesn't sniff the top 12. But it's certainly a great player to look at. And thank you for the $10 hauler.
To the moon.
But I'd say like mid to late 2nd probably. Maybe even like top of round 3 potentially. It just kind of depends on the flow of draft if it's going to go heavy QB whatsoever. So that's a really, really good one, though. Thank you, Superfish. Appreciate you. Coble with a $10 hauler. That gets a moonshot as well. Thank you, Coble, for dropping yours. And Coble says, hey, Smitty. Love your JD5 takes. I agree 100%. I argue JD5 is the better passer than Lamar. He's by far the better passer than Lamar. JD5 is absolutely a pure drop back pocket passer. People are just ridiculous. They just don't know what they're talking about. They're casuals. Only a casual will say he's not a drop back pocket passer. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't have anything in front of them to support that. In fact, what I just presented proves it. And Caleb Williams isn't half the pocket passer and drop back passer that JD5 is. And anybody saying otherwise is casually speaking about it or just wearing, goggles. Lamar now with the same rushing upside. He's so much better than Lamar. The haters can only hope that he gets hurt. Drafted him at 2.1 over Caleb last week. Love it. Yeah. I tried to tell that guy. Remember that guy was on the clock at 1 and he was like, I can't draft JD5. I'll get made fun of. I'm like, you going to draft what your league wants or what you want? Rock Out with $2. You sniped me, Smitty. In the slow draft, I'm sorry, Rock Out. Who was it that I took? I don't even remember. And Benji with a $5. I like Daniels, but in a 1 QB league, you could trade 1.4 for Stroud, Hurts, Lamar, etc. instead of drafting Daniels. I don't know what league you play in, bro, but I couldn't trade the 1.4 to get Hurts or maybe. Yeah, you couldn't for Stroud either. People are too excited about him. Benji, I don't think so, bro. I don't even think you could get Lamar for the 1.4. Maybe. It depends on their quarterback situation and everything, but I don't know that I agree with that. The other thing too is like remember that while drafting is one thing, right? People draft quarterbacks late. Once ownership of the team is solidified and almost like the whistle blows in week 1, or just you've drafted and the draft is complete, quarterback values take a big spike. They have such good value after the draft is over. Like, try trading for Mahomes in any 1 QB league you have. Try. I dare you. Try trading for Josh Allen in any 1 QB league. I dare you. You won't even be able to get him anywhere close to, like, bottom of the 2nd round value, yet Mahomes winning 4 or 5. It's madness. I guess in Dynasty, he probably goes in, like, 3-4. But his value's double the moment you walk out of the draft. But I don't think you're trading the 1.4 for Hurts, bro. I don't know. That would be, I don't know what league that would be in. That's a league I've never heard of. All right, so the super chats are out of the way. Benji, appreciate you. Okay, Sebastian, you're live.
Hey, Smitty, are you higher on JD5 right now than you were on AR5 going into last year?
Yes. By a mile. By a mile.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't following you last year. That's why I asked.
Yeah, you never heard me talk about AR5 to this degree. We all liked AR5. AR5, what's the best way I can put this? And I'm not saying AR5 hasn't grown on me even more. Like, I love AR5. He's a Mars man. I mean, look, I'll show, if anybody doesn't know what the Mars man list is, here.
He's on a shuttle to Mars. Mars man.
There's no way to, like, show my appreciation and affection for AR5 right now. I love him. But, yeah, coming out as a prospect, he had a lot of question marks. His situation was kind of tough to really navigate fully. You know, the Jonathan Taylor situation, there's a whole lot. It's tough. It was very, very tough to see how good he was going to be. And even though we drafted him in round like 6-7, and JD5 feels like he's going later than that, I think we'll be right there as well. I think round 6-7 at the minimum, JD5's going there really close to August in redraft. And I'm talking redraft here. And Dynasty is a whole different thing. Like, everyone is very into him, but I think they're still undervaluing him. But just to give like a general sense of their same values as a rookie, I think JD5 starts going in the 6th, 7th round in a redraft. And people are drafting him, but then drafting somebody to potentially start ahead of him for a while, and they're drafting that quarterback after. Because JD5 was drafted before anybody starter when they drafted AR5. You drafted AR5 in like 6-7, and you might have taken like A-Rod to start for a while, and you took A-Rod after him. So it'll be similar, but JD5's got way more appeal and upside. He's bigger than Lamar. He weighs more than Lamar, which is hilarious because everyone keeps saying how little he is and he's going to get beat up in the NFL. Well, he weighs 5 more pounds than Lamar, and he's 2 inches taller. All right, hold on, Sebastian. Let me go over to Matt real quick. Matt, what's up, my guy? You're live.
What's up, Smitty? Thanks for taking the calls and everything that you do for the community. After this phone call, I'll go in and put a super chat in for the appreciation.
Attaboy. I like that. I like the way you think. That's also a good setup. I'm a little less likely to yell at you. That's great. This guy's a smart man.
So I'm in I got a 12-team start 8, 1 QB league PPR, and I have the 102, the 107, and the 109, and I have Pitt as my tight end. And the way that historically my league drafts is that it's hard to trade for a tight end, and they don't really value the QBs that much. Like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young both went at like the 203 and the 207. Like last year. So they fall like a lot. And I have an inbox offer of I trade the 107 and the 109 for the 104 and the 201. And I'm thinking go get Bowers at the 4, Neighbors with number 2, and then at the 201 probably like JD5 will probably be there at the 201.
So it's funny you said this because we had the same question. Did you already ask this question? Because someone asked this the other night. No. Okay, someone asked this exact question the other night. I don't know that they're getting the 2.1. I think they're getting the 2.4, but it's like the same. I think it was the same exact trade, or almost identical. It was 1.2. Or no. It was the 1.4 and 2.4, I think, or 2.7. So it wasn't the 2.1. So your trade's even better. The 1.4 and the 2.7 for the 7 and the 9. So that's crazy. It's identical. What I told him was my initial reaction is to go smash the hell out of this 1.4. And we all ultimately ended up saying go that direction. My only hesitation is I've seen 2 drafts so far that are community-based, like the fantasy football show people. I've seen 2 drafts so far where Jonathan Brooks fell to 1.7 in one of them, and Trey Benson fell to 1.9 or later in both of them. So, like, if you were to get both those guys, then the answer is hell no in retrospect. But, you know, of course, my natural inclination is to say this 2.1 player could still be so good. Like, what if you get McConkey or you get whatever wide receiver you love? Keon Coleman could fall here. I've seen Keon Coleman go at 2.1. I've seen him go at 1.8. So, like, you just don't really know. The ADP data is not great yet. But if you give me, like, Bowers and Keon Coleman, and then you don't get your guys here, at the end of the day, this 1.4 is going to look better. But, I mean, what if you're able to get those two guys? So, I'm ultimately going to lean toward this 1.4. Superfish says it was the 2.4. Okay, yeah. So, the 1.4 and the 2.4, but it's pretty much identical. I think we lean toward this 1.4 just to say you have control of your destiny here. Here you're relying on a lot of, you know, luck, and if it doesn't work out, you're going to be so pissed off. But at the end of the day, like, do you think you're getting Benson at 1.7 no matter what, or is there a Cardinal fan in your group, or because if you get Benson,
so I've been like texting like a lot of people like throughout the day, talking like, hey, like who are you gonna pick? And it sounds like Brooks and Benson will both be there at 7. But the person at 8 is going to be picking probably one of the running backs. So if I keep 9, I could go Brooks or Benson at 7. 8 will go to the other running back, and then 9 I could get. If I kept it, I could get like Ladd or Caleb or someone like.
Yeah, that's tough because, like, at the end of the day, let me put it this way: at the end of the day, I want Benson at 1.4. You know, like in my mind, right? I'm not saying to do it because, again, here's my rankings. This is me saying this is how I see the value. Benson's my number 4. But, of course, I'm trying to push it as far down as I can to get value. But at the end of the day, here's what I'm trying to say is at this 1.4, I feel like Benson's as good a value as anybody you're going to end up forcing yourself to take advantage of the ADP. And so if you tell me you get Benson at 7, okay, and then now you've got a little bit better player than this player, at the end of the day, if you guarantee me Benson's there, if you guarantee it to me, and I know you can't, but if you could, I'm trying to emphasize, I would probably take this 1.7 because I love Benson so much. And I think he's, in hindsight, worth arguing for this 1.4. And then you got this 1.9 now, and who the hell knows who could slip to you there that shouldn't. But at the end of the day, if it's like Brian Thomas Jr., who I like a lot, and then you could also get Keon Coleman at 2.1 or something because he fell, I like Keon Coleman as much, and so you're not getting much of an advantage there. I guess I would see if you could trade the 1.9 into the 1.8 with that guy by giving him some second rounders. I'd consider stuff like that, but it's a tough call. There's no real good answer here. If it's tight end premium, then I would of course go Bowers at 1.4, but he probably wouldn't be there in tight end premium, so I don't think it is. I like Bowers a lot though, so you can't really go wrong, bro.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the thing. My overall, and I'll say this and then I'll go on to the next caller, but my overall thinking of like the 109 to the 201, the gap isn't like that. Like, to me, they're all kind of like in like the same tier. Like a lot of these guys, I'm happy with any of like the top 14, 13, like going to me.
Do you have Kyron? Do you have Kyron by chance or anything like that, or Achane?
No, my only running backs it's really just Bijan and a bunch of Cam.
And who are your wide receivers?
My wide receivers will be, after the draft, will be Neighbors at the 102. Neighbors, JSN, Tank Dell, and Rashee Rice. And Rice is a whole other separate issue.
All right. Well, yeah, another thing I'd try and do, you might like Neighbors. I think Neighbors is great, but Harrison Jr., I don't know if that guy would trade, but 1.2 and 1.9 for MHJ.
I've tried for 2 months. He's just like set on Marvin. I've even offered him like 3 firsts. I know I'd lose a trade, and he's taking Marv. He's a massive.
So like, I'm not saying to. I'm just asking. So you've offered him the 1.2, the 1.7, and the 1.9.
I've offered him that, and then I have another guy,
Left leg.
2025, which is like a top 3 pick. I've offered him the 102, a top 3 pick next year, and like the 107.
He ain't moving.
And he's still saying
he ain't moving them. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I love Benson, bro. You need running backs too, so maybe 1.7.
Yeah.
You take Benson, and then at 1.9. I don't know. Tough to say. All right, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, Smitty. Appreciate
Later.
you.
The Bolt. You're live, The Bolt.
What's up, Smitty?
What's up, bro?
So, had my first rookie draft this past weekend on Sunday. And it's the one where I had asked a question before if I should trade HN for the 106 and a second rounder this year and next year. Well, as the draft progressed for us to draft, he completely was being really like crazy. He wanted HN and a pick swap in the first. Like, why am I gonna do that? I'm gonna give you the 110 for the 106 and HN. I don't think so. So thank God I didn't, because I was gonna draft Benson at the 106. So at the 103, I was actually able to get Marvin Harrison Jr. because
Wow.
the first two managers were really hurting for quarterbacks, and they took Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels. So I got Marvin Harrison at the 3, which I traded CMC for. Traded CMC for the 103 straight up.
I mean, I take Marvin Harrison Jr. over CMC all day long. So that's a great job.
Oh, yeah, it was great, but everybody was going crazy over the Superflex, yes, but they were just going crazy on quarterbacks the first round. Like JJ went, JJ McCarthy went, May went, Worthy went before Rome and Neighbors. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Worthy, yeah, you're playing with grandmas, bro.
Oh my God.
The moment you tell me Worthy went before Neighbors, I'm like, okay. These guys don't know what they're doing.
I was like, yeah, they don't. I got Benson at the 110. So all in all, I didn't have a second. I didn't have a third round draft pick, but I walked away with Marvin Harrison Jr., Benson, Kamani Vidal, Ben Sanat, and Eric Hall.
Nice. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate the super chat, Matt. All right, hey, hang tight, DeBolt. If you have a question, let me know. Cook it up. This one's coming from Sick Nasty, 3-month membership. Might be trading number 6, 1.6, 4, 8, and 12. 1 QB. I mean, this goes back to the same concept to a small degree. I know I saw a couple people saying that they would do this, in a heartbeat, whatever. It just comes down to what is this player, and if it's Bowers and Benson and Jonathan Brooks, and I think one of them will be available still at 1.8. Tough to say for sure, but so therefore I love the 1.8, and then you get this extra pick. But if like I got screwed out of those options and I'm left with, the wide receiver 4. So let's map this out. Let's say that so one MHJ, 2 Neighbors, 3 Adunze. And if it's super flex, it changes things, obviously. But sometimes no one ever tells me if it's super flex. Oh, 1 QB. He did. Sick Nasty. Good job, bro. Okay, MHJ, Neighbors, Adunze. 4 is probably going to be... What do you guys seeing consistently in your drafts? If you guys want to drop it in the chat for like the 4 overall pick, what's the consistent consensus every time you're seeing it? I imagine that we're looking at a lot of people drafting like Caleb potentially, or maybe Worthy, maybe Bowers, but I'm curious to know what you guys are seeing. So drop it in the chat. Sebastian and DeBolt, what are you seeing, or what have you seen at 4 in a 1 QB, or have you not drafted in a 1 QB yet?
The
I
Josh
have
Allen
not.
team to Coleman.
Caleb or
On the
JD5,
startup?
says Matt. Yes. Well, no, rookie draft.
Oh, rookie draft? Because I thought I heard Josh Allen.
No,
Sorry.
right here. I'll put it on the
No,
board.
I said the Josh Allen
Okay.
team to Coleman.
So we got
Okay,
we got
well-
Caleb Worthy, BT. All right. So, let's go. I think people are doing this. I don't know why, but Caleb, then 5, 6, 7, and 8. So Caleb, Coleman, Bowers, BT, J. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't see how you don't get Brooks or Benson at least at that 8 pick. So if you're getting the 12 on top of Benson or Brooks, and you're giving up the opportunity of getting Bowers or Coleman, there's not much of a difference, in my opinion, than Coleman in this 8 pick. And in some ways, if you need an RB, I like this more. If you don't need an RB and you need a tight end, then you might not want to move out of 6. But if you're okay going RB, it's probably the move to make. It's hard to do up front, but at the end of the day, you probably are happy. This is one of those trades that, like I say, my instinct is to have the higher pick, and then later on, 8 times, maybe 7 or 8 times out of 10, I regret not having the 2 picks, because I'm like, I can't believe people are not drafting like I would. You know what I mean? Like, I always feel that way about rookie drafts. I'm always like, wow. You know, and so I would probably say that. Thank you, Sick Nasty. Appreciate you. All right, DeBall, any questions, anything? I'm probably going to bounce you guys both off the phone line, so if you want to think for a second, I'd go over to Sebastian. Sebastian, you got either of you have a final question or anything you want to throw out here?
I think I'm still higher on Chase in a startup as far as overall.
Over who?
I mean, it's close over MHJ
Oh,
by the slightest bit.
I mean, I can't get mad at that. Can't get mad at that. You can't, honestly, you can't get mad at somebody liking Lamb, number 1 in Dynasty startup. You can't get mad at somebody liking Chase. You can't get mad at somebody liking JJ. I mean, those are all very arguable wide receiver ones overall. My arguments against Lamb would be Dak might not be there next year. McCarthy might not be there next year. What's the offense look like? And if you need an example of how that feels when it really happens, and you're like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. You know, JJ will be fine. JJ will be fine. Now, how are we feeling about JJ? We love him, but we don't really know what to expect, and it's not his fault. So Lamb could be looking at a similar situation. Jamar Chase is, I think, very arguable to be that good. The only thing that would make me say MHJ without a hesitation, though, for me, is that he's starting out fresh. I'm not saying that Chase is an old guy. Ziggy, how old is Jamar Chase? I want to see his birthday.
Jamar Chase is 24 years old and was born on March 1st.
Ziggy
2000.
off. So young. He's still so young.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Just turned 24. Wow. Is it kind of a, you almost wonder, like, is he turning 25? Wow, that's great. He just turned 24. I love Jamar Chase, man. He's so good. I can't get mad at you. I can't. Lamb, I can argue really hard against that point, though, just because of the whole unknowns with Dak and McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy alone would be devastating. Dak alone would be devastating. Both of them not getting extended. Who the hell knows what's in store for this team? And Jerry clearly doesn't make good decisions, so he could get rid of McCarthy even if he wanted to come back. But you're talking about if you don't see extensions for both, and I think they will. I think it's 50-50 Dak gets extended. You know, he says he's not doing it one moment, then he says, of course I'm working on it. The next minute, you're like, what do you mean, of course you're working on it? You made it very clear you weren't. So who knows what's going to happen, but CeeDee Lamb might not have Dak. It's scary to me. And then, you know, Jamar Chase has had trouble staying healthy. Burrow's had trouble staying healthy. So that's a little worrisome, right? And then JJ's situation. So at the end of the day, Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, you could say Kyler coming back from the ACL concerns you, and even though he's 1 year removed from it, he played on it, last year. I could see somebody saying, well, if you're going to argue injury for Burrow and Chase, you got to then say, well, Kyler's got to still stay healthy. Like, I get it. But, man, I don't know. Something about Marvin Harrison Jr. Think about it from this perspective, guys. Like, he is ahead of everybody at every single turn. Like, think about it. He said, I'm not doing the combine. Why? Because I don't need to, and I'm just going to start preparing to be a pro. Okay. So he goes and he prepares to be a pro. And then what's he do about his pro days? I'm not going to do my pro days. I'm still going to prepare to be a pro. Okay. So everyone else is playing Mickey Mouse, and this guy's out there becoming NFL ready. He's not adjusting his body weight so he can hit a time. He's not making himself less NFL. Like, think about it. It's almost like dropping weight in boxing or MMA. Like, you're putting yourself in such an unhealthy state right before the big event. Like, what a dumb concept when you really think about it. Like, what a stupid way to approach fighting in MMA and boxing. Such a dumb. They should change it. They should do some sort of, like, you weigh in over the course of, I don't know, some other way to calculate this thing, because it's such an unhealthy thing. And these players, they put their bodies in weights and sizes that they won't be playing at so they can hit these numbers. And so Harrison doesn't play that game. What's Harrison do when he gets to the NFL? He doesn't sign the Fanatics contract like everybody else. He waits and gets his $1 million. Like, he's just ahead of everything. Like, if anybody thinks his dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., and the pedigree and all this stuff isn't like weighing and just factoring into every single like facet of this guy's game and mental state and everything, I don't know. I just have a feeling he is going to walk out there and look like he is a 3-year veteran, because he's ahead of everybody at every single turn. It's unbelievable how much he's a pro already. I just can't wait. I'm so excited about Marvin Harrison Jr. And as a Cardinal fan, and I know this sounds biased because somebody's like, oh, he's a Cardinal fan. I have talked down the Cardinals for decades. You did not hear me. Anybody in here can admit they never hear me ever come in here and go, oh, Connor's going to be amazing. Or, is McBride was like the first time you heard anything positive come from me. And Kyler, I've been up and down about because of his attitude. And I was very critical about his attitude. There was a point where I wanted to get rid of him because he was not mentally, equipped, I think, to handle what was in front of him. But he grew a lot with the ACL tear, and then now he's supported enough. I think Kyler's in a really good place, and I'm very excited about Kyler. But this is not a biased take. It just so happens to be ironically lined up with my home team, and I'm excited about it. So I think people will assume there's some bias involved. I can assure you it's not. But yeah, I don't blame you for Chase. Travis, who's your wide receiver 1 overall in Dynasty?
It's Marvin Harrison. It's not close.
Yeah.
For rookies or for all overall?
All players.
It's Marvin Harrison. I wouldn't say it's not close, but it's Marvin Harrison. For rookies, it's not close for me.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's
just to add to what you were saying, like the fact that he's almost like a polished pro already. The only thing he has to, face is the speed of the game, which you don't know that until you truly see it in a game. But everyone else has to do that too, and all the other things, he's prepared. There's no off the field stuff. His father's been able to kind of help him, what to expect. He's got a good family life. Like, everything all the other players have to do off the field and learn how to survive in a locker room and in an NFL locker room and, maneuver their way through playbooks. And he has all this stuff already done, already covered. He's comfortable with it.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that he's the number one wide receiver prospect to maybe ever come out. So like the college, prospecting of him matches with everything we're seeing. It's not like, people are going out on a limb on assuming the talent's there, but the mental state, the preparedness for the league and everything it entails, and to be literally every step ahead of everybody else who's playing college football still, and he's not. He's been in the NFL for, it seems like, a year now, the way he's been dove straight into it. And then on top of that, it's like his work ethic is unreal. The workout videos are freaking amazing when you watch this guy out there, how quick he is for as big as he is. And I'm just super excited to see what he does in week 1. I just can't wait. I'm so excited about it. But I get the hesitations. The thing that's weird about Dynasty overall, not rookie, Dynasty overall rankings, is that all of the top guys have question marks now. Like Chase is the only one that doesn't really have the situational question marks, right? Because Joe Burrow is healthy, the Bengals and the Joe and Chase are never going to be divorced, and so like I kind of agree. Was it DeBalt or Sebastian? I agree that he's right there. Like,
Sebastian.
Yeah, Chase has there's a better argument to make for Chase than Lamb by far. Lamb's got the talent that Jamar has, but the situation's in flux. And it could get so bad so quick. It could get better if he gets his extension, Dak. And we know Dak's there for the long term, no matter what. Even if he has a bad year, he's signed to a big fat extension. Then I feel a lot better about Lamb. But he doesn't climb above Chase, but he gets right into the table. He's sitting at the table. But Lamb's got huge question marks right now with his situation. JJ's got huge question marks. I don't care if people like JJ McCarthy or not. He's got a lot to prove, and the offense may not be the same. And there are so many mouths to feed with Addison, Hawkinson. There's a lot going on. Aaron Jones still pulling in a lot of passes. This is a tough spot for JJ. We might see JJ just incapable of producing what he's capable of producing just because he's in that situation. And then you've got, so MHJ goes into this situation where Kyler can throw too. People like try and make Kyler out to be this 200-yard, 190-yard passer sometimes or whatever. He's had 400-yard passing games. He can throw a lot of yards. There's no worry about, like some say AR5 will be this low yardage guy, and so how can he? This is not Kyler. Kyler can throw the ball. Kyler can air it out. McBride's going to get his too, but, I think that work is almost set aside differently in terms of distributing the target share for a tight end in the wide receiver department. I'm always a big advocate of not letting that factor in too much because there's so many plays available for the tight end position that's not going to affect the downfield throws. And although McBride's like a downfield wide receiver sometimes, but I'm just, there's no question marks here other than if we miss on the prospect, which I don't think we will. But man, I mean, did anybody think 2 years ago we'd be having questions about JJ? No. And it's not like we're questioning him. We're just, the JJ McCarthy drafting cements in 2, maybe 3 years of whatever JJ McCarthy is. It's weird that getting the quarterback almost made me feel lesser about him. And I know Sick Nasty is not going to like this because he loves JJ McCarthy, and that's fine. I get it. But having JJ McCarthy become the choice to me made me like JJ less because, like in Dynasty, if let's say they didn't draft him, I at least would have hope and vision that they bring in Shedeur Sanders or they figure out something. Now it's like they're pot committed to whatever JJM and his limitations could or may not be for the next 2 to 3 years. This is Daniel Jones, Mac Jones commitment level, even if they play like those guys, so it scares me.
Yeah, do you think they start McCarthy from day one? Or do we see Darnold?
I don't know.
I hear a lot of Like a lot of people thinking Darnold might start, but I don't know. What is it like?
You know why?
McCarthy can handle.
Yeah.
I'm not saying McCarthy's great, but if he can handle the playbook and they're a good roster, so he's probably not going to get hurt starting.
Yeah, and Sick Nasty, you're fine to have that opinion. I'm not like Sick Nasty loves JJM, and I'm not saying he can't become good. Like you're never gonna hear me say JJM's a bust at all. You're never gonna hear that. I like him. He's a good kid. I think he's a project, but I just am not sold yet at all. I'm not sold on any level yet because I feel like he hasn't done enough. And it wasn't his fault, but he wasn't asked to do a lot. So we don't really know where his limitations are. Because Harbaugh had a very, very unique system that put the quarterback in a very easy position a lot of the time. So a lot of people might say he had it easy. He made some good throws. He's got a good arm. But I don't know that he's good enough yet at least, and he could, to even feed this entire lot of guys. And my concern will be that, like with Danny Dimes in New York, and I'm not saying he can't be better than Danny Dimes. I would take JJM over Danny Dimes in a millisecond because Danny Dimes is a trash can, and he's not even worth starting in the NFL. He's not even a top 32 quarterback. So of course I'd take the chance, but I'm just saying, like, the problem with Danny Dimes is you don't know what you're getting for a while. In JJM he hasn't been unlocked enough to know that he can handle all the different things going to get thrown at him. So could he have a Danny Dimes or Mac Jones in year one? He could. And it might not be. I mean, think about Manning had, how many INTs did Manning have, Peyton Manning, his rookie year? Like, not every rookie quarterback explodes their rookie year. Doesn't mean that it's a little harder to be good now in today's NFL, though, the way the college game translates. If you have a bad rookie QB year, you're probably not going to translate as much.
28 interceptions in rookie year.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you never know, but I think it's a different NFL, so it's hard to, like, compare that. But I'm just merely saying, like, if JJM doesn't show all he is in year one, it wouldn't be crazy. But I just think he's got a greater chance of being Danny Dimes than he does being a top 5 quarterback. Like, if that's a rare way to look at it. So I think he's something in between.
That was the reason I didn't want the Patriots to draft him, is because, I'm not saying he's Mac Jones. He'll probably end up being better than Mac Jones, but the Patriots already went down that route with a guy that's probably not going to be a top 10 quarterback. So I wanted them to take the big swing.
Yeah. So somebody said, who was it? John said, don't be surprised if every new QB sits. No way. Not a chance in hell, bro.
Not a chance.
Caleb is literally, they're worshiping this guy over in Chicago. He's starting. He already started. Yeah, JD5 starting. Is there a chance he does it? I don't know. I guess there's always.
Bo Nix is probably starting.
Yeah, Bo Nix probably, but Caleb's for sure starting. May might not.
Caleb's been starting since March.
Caleb's been starting in his dreams. Wasn't that I don't want to get into it. Negative Caleb talk. People get so mad at me. But was anybody else just, like, bothered by the phone call when Poles called him and he says, "Hey, who's this?" And he goes, "Who's this?"
Every turn, he's just a weird guy.
Who's this?
That's the best way to put it.
I don't know. He just irks me. The way he says stuff irks me too. Like, when he got up after. Do we have a Bears fan on the phone? Can I get a Bears fan to call in, please? I just want to ask. I've been wanting to ask this.
They never do.
Genuine question to a Bears fan. I just want to ask a legitimate question. So I'm going to pause before I continue. Please, Bear fan, call in. I'm not trying to go at you. I just want to ask you a question.
Matto hasn't called in still.
Matto, please, a Bears fan, please call in. I have a genuine question for you. I've been wanting to know the answer to this for some time. John, thank you for the question, but no. You're the comment, but no. You're definitely going to see at least two, guaranteed Caleb, but at least two quarterbacks of the lot starting, but maybe four.
Mel Kiper should have called in earlier when you were talking about how, like, someone would argue that JD5 wasn't number one. He called Caleb Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if you saw that on the broadcast.
No. Yeah, I don't. Mel Kiper's not. I don't worry about what he says. But yeah, JD5. I love when people say like stupid stuff like JD5's not a pocket passer or that Caleb's better at throwing downfield. It's just like there's no statistical data to back that up. I literally showed I showed backup for that. To be the best downfield throwing quarterback beyond 20 yards in the last decade in college football, how do you argue anything negative about JD5 throwing downfield? It's ridiculous.
Funny because people, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season are going to come in and say, man, JD5 really surprised me with how good of a passer he is.
I know. He's gonna be so much. And when I always drop like JD5 will be better than Lamar in comment sections on like Twitter and yeah, I see the people that just look at me. They go, "Well, this guy should get a new job." I get nothing but hate on it, and it's hilarious. And I drop it and watch some of the replies, but then I back out and just go to the next place, drop it. Like whenever it's like a Schefter post and it's like, you know, somebody says some topic or he's retweeting something about Caleb being this or that and like being the next elite quarterback. I'm like, JD5 is better than Lamar, and everyone's just like, bro.
I think Matto might call it and just ask for the number. I just.
Why is Lamar going over Stroud and Mahomes though? Like, I don't understand.
Why is Lamar going over Stroud and Mahomes? I mean,
year last year for fantasy.
I mean, I guess you could say, like, is there a possibility that he, like, let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the Marsman League here. It's a 6-point per TD league. Let me just see how that affects it because it's 6 points per TD pass. Let's see here. Marsman QB stats 2023. I just want to see where he ranks. He's number 5. So, you know, one could argue, hey, he outscored, you know, them last year.
Biased.
So yeah, so that will right there be. You ask me how, that would be why people are like, he's number 5. And at the end of the day, like, you know, he's certainly capable of being like QB 2, 3, 4, 5 at any given season. But I think Stroud. Look, he runs the ball, bro. I mean, Stroud and Lamar. I think it's kind of wild to suggest one can't outscore the other. As far as Mahomes,
I worry about Lamar down the stretch. Though.
I do.
He always sits out at the end of the year.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw today's video on the main channel, but I was like, it makes Lamar almost an avoid for me, to a degree that he's playing at 205 pounds. Lamar played at 230 2 years ago. He dropped down to 215 last year, and now he's playing at 205.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, I'm not liking that at all. He weighs less than JD5, who everyone cannot let go of the fact that he's too small at 6'4", 210.
No one can argue that again if they support Lamar.
Yeah, so, you know, someone will say, well, Lamar's shorter, so he's stockier because he's 6'2", and JD5's 6'4", so it's okay if he weighs 205. But JD5 probably weighs, even if JD5's 207, 208, he's lying about being 210. He's probably 207, 208. I almost guarantee you he'll play at 210 at the NFL level. I think this might be, hold on, let me answer this. 208 caller, who's this?
Hey, it's Matto.
Matto, I have a genuine question for you. Okay, are you a diehard Bears fan?
Since I was a kid in '85.
Okay. And I forget, you're kind of torn on Caleb, or are you off Caleb? I just want to get the gist.
So as a Bears fan, right, I was very vocal on it. I wanted Fields to stay. I was hands down Fields to stay. They boot Fields, and I'm just torn with Caleb. Now I'm like, do I really want him? Do I know? I don't know.
So my question is, you guys are a pretty rooted in tradition. The Bears, the Bears. Did it bother you the way Caleb said the Bears? He goes, the Bears.
That's an unfair question.
No,
I'm not going to pick on a guy for the way he acts, though, right?
No. I'm asking a genuine question for a fan base that's rooted in tradition, where the Bears is a hardcore statement. That is the Bears, like that's a tradition. And this guy gets up and sings it.
Ditka, all that stuff.
Yeah, Ditka would absolutely throw up in his mouth when you get up and you sing the Bears in like a, I don't know how you would describe that. He's like, the Bears. He gets up as he's getting up. I wondered, how did that resonate in the Chicago, how did the Chicago fans take that? I can't imagine it went over well. Like, that's not what you.
I imagine we just took it with a grain of salt. He's gonna be our guy. We don't have a lot to say. We're like, oh, okay, all right, let's just roll with it and see what happens.
Somebody's got to explain to him that you don't say the Bears like that. You don't say it's the Bears. You don't go.
And maybe there's a class for him.
He goes, thanks everybody, and then he gets up. He goes, the Bears. And when he did it, I about threw up in my mouth, and I'm like, "What's he singing? The Bears? Why is he singing this? Why is he?"
I think it
acapella.
So it's what's gonna happen is, if he plays really well, I don't think Bears fans are gonna care. If he plays horrible, oh my gosh, watch out! The Bears fans are gonna go crazy. They're gonna go, "Oh, we're done," right? I think there's a very short leash.
I just can't see. I look. I'll be the first to admit. I don't care what he does in week 1, week 2. Like, let's be fair. If he has a horrible week 1, I'll probably be talking. But let's say he has a mixed review week 1, but like good yardage, and you're wondering maybe they would squeak out a win, whatever. I'm not calling it then. He's got to prove it on the year to me. There's fantasy production to be scored. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to, there's too many weapons for him not to do what Fields was doing, on occasion. But the thing is, even with Fields producing, and I believe Fields was number 7 in the NFL in top 5 QB finishes on the year. He was 7th in the entire National Football League in top 5 QB finishes. And he got removed. So that is the definition of you didn't produce. They moved on. And so that doesn't mean Caleb doesn't have a cannon. It's not as good as JD5's, but that he could go out and throw the ball and get like 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT in week 2 or week 3 and have production. But will he win? Will he be the future? Will he be like Fields, even if he's productive and exciting at times, replaceable 2-3 years from now? That is the definition of not working out. It's not about like he's going to go out and look pedestrian. You guys have set him up as well as you can, and it's pretty good on the surface level. But
yeah, on paper, and that's been our rub forever. We've never really had anybody around a quarterback, right? So here we are. We're all excited. We've built around this guy. He's going to do great. I mean, look at it, what he's done in the city, right? Everybody loves him. He's at games, and they're cheering for him. He hasn't even played a snap yet in the NFL. My gut says if he doesn't produce in a relatively short amount of time, the Bears fans are going to go crazy. We'll go nuts.
Yeah. You guys are gonna rip him to shreds.
We're setting him up either for success or he's just going to crash hard. So
that or you'll turn on the team. And you'll turn on Flus and you'll be like, okay, get rid of him. This play calling is not go for Caleb. This is Caleb. I think it'll take a while. I think everyone will cling to Caleb and say it's not Caleb's fault. Someone needs to train him on how to say the Bears. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. No one told him. No one told him that you come out and you say the Bears. The Bears. You don't say The Bears.
No.
I think you know that.
I hope I just kind of what I'm seeing on the surface. I'm kind of warming up to him a little bit, but it's hard for me. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just being a Bears fan for this long and kind
I
of
just can't believe he said
all right,
it.
we're gonna see what happens.
I try to think like what is another equivalent of another like phrase that a team says? Like someone give me something else. Off the top of my head, I can't think. But something like tradition,
Who dat?
huh?
Who dat?
Yeah, who dat? Yeah, yeah. Like imagine singing that.
Broncos, that's right.
Imagine singing that.
Yeah.
Who dat? Who's got another one?
That's right.
What?
J.E.T. What?
J.E.T.
Broncos.
Yeah.
Let's go the Jets, yeah.
J.E.T. Yes, Jets. Okay. J.E.T.
Singing it.
S.
Yeah, I just
Oh, yeah, go Pack,
I don't know what
that's a
else to
good
say.
one.
I just hope he does well.
Go Pack, go.
Yeah.
Broncos, let's ride. See, like Mr. TD in the comments says, at least he's not fake. He's just doing him. But I don't know if he is. It's like it's almost like he's trying to be weird. I don't know that this is like. I know he's a strange dude.
Well,
I don't know if he's just doing him. I think he likes attention.
Mr. TD, though, I don't think you're grasping what we're even saying, because no one has ever said that another human being can't do what they want, say what they want, be how they are, act how they want to act. I think you're completely missing the point, Mr. TD. I see your comments. I see you're hating on the hate. But the bottom line is the thing we're talking about is when you're the leader of the soldiers on the field, when you're the lieutenant, and you turn around and you're trying to command people to go into battle. There's a certain kind of way that has been successfully implemented in your persona and how you come across as leading the team. And I think this guy's too wrapped up in the Hollywood. I mean, Mr. Titty, I'm not the one that came up with calling him Hollywood and saying that NFL players saying his own teammates, defensive player, who was it that said it? Johnson? Who was it? What was it? Who was it said that? I'm blanking on the name. But that went at him and said, don't bring that Hollywood into the locker room. Like basically you'll get eaten up in the NFL if you start, especially as a rookie. Talking about wherever I go, I want ownership of the team and all this nonsense that he's been constantly, brewing up. Like those are the things that get in the way. He's the quarterback. It's different.
That's the big point.
It's like, Mr. TD, you're not even you're just thinking we're hating on anybody that's different or they present them. Look at Dennis Rodman. Like, look at Odell Beckham Jr.'s wild. Like, Antonio Brown's, crazy wild. Receivers are usually very diva. They're very, very diva. QBs, name a QB that is as strange as Caleb that's worked out.
Well, and like someone said Cam Newton, but Cam didn't do that when he was on the Panthers.
And why can't Cam find a job right now? Because why did Cam never come back? Because he acted very different enough to where it's like, this is distracting. This is not, this is not what leadership is on the field.
Yeah, I think you have to it's easy to focus on Caleb and what he's doing, what not doing. It's kind of the devil's in the details, if you want to kind of say that. And I think the best way to look at it, at least from my perspective, is look at the teammates. How are they reacting around him? Is he capturing that room? So Caleb can say whatever he wants to say, but I want to see how the players are acting around him. Are they warming up to him? Are they not? Right? It's a dead giveaway before it really hits the fan. So I'm very curious. I'm not sold yet. I'm just curious. I want to see where it takes us.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate the super chat. Thanks for the super chat, Aaron. Yeah. I mean, look, Mr. TD, there's certain people that are going to want to come to the defense of a player, like, no matter what. Like, I mean, that's good. But no one's saying that anybody can't be who they want to be. True, you got to be a thug to be a football player, says Brian MC. Brian, who's defending a player crashing in a 6-car pileup and then walking off the freeway? Do you see me judging that? Wouldn't you say, Brian, your comment just proved you 100% wrong by even trying to use that? And now, like, I am a equal opportunity judger. You can't do that and succeed either, Brian. I'm just asking you, give me one player that's, as Blackbeard just mentioned, that's cried in their mama's lap in a fetal position, weeping and shaking after a loss of a game. Name one player that's ever done that in their mama's lap. Not, oh, Brandon Ayuk cried during, Jordan cried when he won the MVP or won a title and he's holding the trophy. No one's talking about that. I said, name one player that's cried in his mama's lap and wept after a loss when his team's looking for him to walk off the field together. And they go, oh, he's up there. He crawled in mama's lap in the fetal position. Name one player at the quarterback position that's led that way. That's my question. Doesn't mean that he's a bad person. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have every right to do that. It doesn't mean that that type of I guess approach to leadership or the game or whatever. You just proved my point. You're not even listening. Embiid cries. What are you talking? Like, what did you just hear? What I said? You didn't hear a word I said. You didn't hear a word I said. You didn't hear a word that came out of my mouth, did you? Because you just repeated what I said that I'm not talking about, Mr. TD. You aren't listening at all.
Well, that's like even with
why do people do that?
After all the drama and all the political crap, he was still going to get another chance with teams, and then he opened his mouth again. Or his girlfriend opened her mouth. And
Brian,
and once you do those things over and over, you don't get another chance.
How is it that Mr. TD and Brian are both the people that comment this right after I said it? Right after I just explained. Don't tell me you typed this beforehand. I just explained to you. There's nothing wrong with the crying of this and that. These are the excuses you get. No, it's robotic. It's like, name one person that's crawled in their mama's lap and wept in the fetal position, and then the defenders come in and say, well, people cry all the time. I don't have an answer for this. What's the index card say? People cry? People cry. We know that. There's nothing wrong with crying. Who said anything about crying? I said weeping in mama's lap in the fetal position. That's what I said. But anyway, look, Matto, I hope I'm wrong. Not really, but because I'll take a lot of heat for it. But I don't wish failure. I don't wish failure on him. I really don't. I hope I'm wrong for that reason. Because I would love. This world is this life is too short. This world is, filled with so much negativity. And I get it seems like I'm adding to it, but I'm here analyzing and predicting the football space. I'm not judging the man or the person or really even the action. I'm judging the action as it relates to being a starting caliber quarterback that a team is drafting number 1 overall. And I'm here to dissect and tear that down. But I'm not against Caleb as a person. I think I wish the best for him, truly. But if I'm asked my opinion and it's my job to analyze and predict, I'm going to tell you that it is an absolute wild assumption that this guy is capable of leading grown men in the National Football League into battle when he can't even take a loss without crawling into mama's lap and crawling into the fetal position.
That's why we love your show, Smitty. You call it as we see it, as you see it.
I might be wrong, but
the show, so it's awesome. It's great.
I don't know. All right. Anything else, Matt? I appreciate you calling in. Call more often, bro. We'll talk non-bear topics so I don't get you down.
You bet.
maybe.
Have a good night, you guys.
All right, later, Matt. All right, let me go to DeBalt. Final thoughts, DeBalt.
Oh, nothing much, Smitty. I just think I have more faith in Benson. And again, I understand Brooks is young, the ACL, but that's the only thing I'm worried about when it comes down to tiering those two running backs. There's really only running backs you can look at besides Marshawn Lloyd. But that's it.
All right, DeBalt, appreciate you. Thank you for moderating. We'll see you later, pal.
Cheers, Smitty. Yeah.
Sebastian, final thoughts.
Yeah, I got one quick question about your site, if that's cool.
About what?
About your site?
Oh, the fantasyfootballshow.com? Yeah, what can I do for you?
Yeah, I saw you had your rankings. I was just going to ask, do you have an overall for redraft, or is it only positional?
Yeah, top 200. It's top 200 Superflex, top 200 Rookie, top 200 Super Rookie, which are sophomores and rookies, top 200 Redraft, top 200 Dynasty, top 200 Superflex Dynasty, top 200 Redraft Dynasty. Or, I'm sorry, Redraft Superflex.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I totally missed it, but I wanted to just ask about that. But thank you so much.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Later.
Later.
Bob from Cali, you're live. You have a very short amount of time. Guys, go get your membership over at thefantasyfootballshow.com. What's up, Bob?
I got a short amount of time, so I think some other dude in the comments has mentioned completion percentage, and I just want to say, there's been a lot of other guys, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and the list goes on and on, of guys in college who haven't put up crazy completion percentage numbers. They didn't put up 100 or 99 like JJ did, or whatever JD5 did at LSU. And oftentimes it's because they didn't have the coaching. I mean, who was Tom Brady's coach at Michigan? Certainly wasn't Jim Harbaugh. Who was Caleb's coach at USC? Although it was good, but were the players as good as those playing in the Big Ten? Probably not. He didn't have an O-line. He didn't have a D-line. And, I think that needs to go into account.
It does.
I'm not not super hardcore to Caleb fine. But, if you look at his numbers in comparison to the other QBs that have come out of USC, they're far superior, far superior.
How can you say that? How can you say that? Look at this screen. You can't say that. You can't say anybody's far superior over Jaden Daniels, bro. He had 50 touchdowns last year.
But I'm not talking about Jaden Daniels. I'm talking about the other QBs that have come out of USC.
Oh, out of USC. I'm sorry. Okay.
That's a totally different perspective.
Gotcha.
Imagine what Caleb would have done. Yeah.
Okay, well, so here's what I'll say, because you make good points, and we've talked about those points before, so it's not like that's new information. Caleb he had to run for his life in some cases. He had to extend plays in order to get things going. I get that. He played off schedule a lot. Some would say, he extended the play instead of letting the play end or whatever. Problem I would say is that you can only use that stuff so much, because you then have to say, you can't just give someone like an extra ranking or category ranking because they didn't have something. You can't just fill in the blanks for them. Like, this goes back to my JJ McCarthy stuff. I'll hear from people, well, he got taken out of games early. Okay, well, that sucks, but you can't just give him stats then. You just can't. You're making assumptions. Or, hey, he wasn't needed as much because the offense ran the ball so much. Okay, I understand that. But you can't just give him passing yards because he didn't get a chance. So the same thing with Caleb. You can't just say, well, he didn't have as good an offensive line. So what am I supposed to do with that? Like, you factor it in and you make assumptions and you say, well, maybe he's a little better at this or that because of that. Sure. But he's also gotten bad tendencies of holding onto the football and dancing around a whole lot more, which isn't going to fly in the NFL. And so he's got to be able to read defenses and make quicker decisions than he's probably used to at the college level, given he didn't have time to read defenses as well and had to scramble and makeshift a lot. So you can say all the things you said, and they're valid arguments for sure, and they need to be considered. But we can't play a game of filling in the gaps for a player that needed this or needed that. And your point about Tom Brady, we say that all the time on this channel. It wouldn't be shocking if there was some quarterback that we're not even talking about right now. Like maybe it's the Jets quarterback, maybe it's Joe Milton, maybe it's somebody else, maybe it's Rattler, that ends up being so much better than one or two of these guys, or somebody else like Brock Purdy. No one was talking about, and I have my opinions on him being as good as some people say he's going to be. I think he's still a good quarterback for sure. He's smart, but I mean those outliers happen all the time. The one thing we do know is that the quarterback position has surprised everybody year after, or decade after decade after decade, and that's one thing I do take very good pride in. I mean, I take pride in all the positions and prediction business, but the quarterback, there are misses, of course, but when you look back at like Mahomes and Josh Allen, those are two players that in hindsight, people remember them to be great. They were always going to be great. No, they weren't. Like when Mahomes was drafted, people liked him, but they very much doubted him. There's an equal camp of hate. There's an equal camp of belief. And when Mahomes was drafted and Alex Smith was tearing it up, his own fan base was like, don't put him in. We don't want him. We want Alex Smith. Bring Alex Smith back. He needs to be our long-term starter. Why would we like this Mahomes character? And so, like, I remember going on NBC and CBS Sports Radio back at that time, and it was, I think it was like October, and Alex Smith was still tearing it up, and that was the year he had a top 5 season through October. Alex Smith was a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and I said Patrick Mahomes will be the number 1 quarterback. I think I said 1 to 5. I think is what I said, 1 to 5, but I included 1 in there. He'd be the top 1 to 5 quarterback within a calendar year. And it was the craziest take in the world. No one's going to give me a cookie, pat me on the back, say that it wasn't obvious. It is what it is now. No one sees that. Josh Allen, same thing. Josh Allen was garbage to everybody, bro. And I remember saying he would be a top 1 to 5 quarterback. And I'm not saying I'm right. I like Trey Lance. Trey Lance failed. I love Trey Lance. He completely failed. But I don't think that was even his fault. There's going to be hits. There's going to be misses. Jordan Love was a huge show guy last year, and there were some rocky roads there. People, I remember like week 4 or 5 or 6, didn't everybody come in here, Travis, and was like, that guy was a waste of space, and they were cutting him left and right. People were trashing all over Josh Allen, Jordan Love. Like, and now he's everybody's darling. I don't expect it to be always a hit, and I don't expect it to be an even or a non-rocky road, because we're going to get pushed back whenever I say something like JD5 is better than Lamar. But every day we get closer to week number 1, it's going to continue to feel more and more mainstream that JD5 is going to be electric, elite, top 5 to 7 capable, like every day. And when we started this, JD5 is the number 1 fantasy football and NFL quarterback, not just fantasy football, the top NFL rookie QB from a football perspective. Back in January, it was very unwell received. It was not well received at all. And it's very, very much becoming a norm. I'm not, all I'm going to say is at the end of the day, I'm even getting sidetracked on where I was headed. I don't know. I think I was just going to say that, what did you say? Remind me real quickly. I was
talking about like completion percentage.
Oh, yeah. So I was just going to say that, like, a lot of it's unpredictable. It really is. And there are players that pop up all the time that no one saw coming. And the best example of that would be Tom Brady, and the best example of it would be Kurt Warner, who none of us from an analyst perspective saw him coming at all, because he wasn't even on the map. But 32 teams, I don't even say 31, all the teams in the National Football League, because the only one liked him was Dick Vermeil. His own OC didn't even want him in the game that week 1. But Kurt Warner is a perfect example of that. The quarterback position is the one position that is so hard to nail all the time. And so for that, Caleb could be amazing. For that, JD5 could end up being the next Zach Wilson, you know, because Zach Wilson was an amazing prospect coming out. He was. Absolutely amazing prospect as a football player. Josh Rosen looked fantastic coming out, but his attitude was piss poor. A lot of the red flags for Josh Rosen, I feel, in a little bit different ways. Caleb has those. That's why it worries me. Johnny Football. One of the best, if not some people would argue the best college football player of all time. And he comes out and God, there were red flags. Like so many red flags. So with Caleb, that's what I feel. There's red flags galore. Maybe he shakes them all off. Maybe we're mischaracterizing him. Maybe we're just old men that say get off our lawn and we're not used to wild personalities coming in and being quarterbacks, and it's going to change. And 3 years from now, there's 5 quarterbacks in the league that are kind of Hollywood like. And that's fine. I'll adjust and adapt if that time comes. But accuracy, predicting things, it being predictable, talking about a quarterback that has less accurate stats or numbers in a lesser situation, like these are things that are very, very hard to extrapolate from college and transfer them to the pros and just say it's going to be this, it's going to be this, and going to be this. So I don't disagree with you that completion percentage, all these stats, they're not that transferable, but I do believe that when you have somebody like JD5 that comes with all these absolutely insane top of the FBS numbers, you think back to like Tank Dell. Let me see if I can find my Tank Dell. I got it somewhere, but we reference this Tank Dell. Let me see. Where is it? Tank Dell. We'd reference this all the time. And it was like head scratching that the fantasy football community as a whole was not on the Tank Dell train because the data was so easy to see coming. Tank Dell was number 2 in receptions in FBS, number 1 in yards in FBS, and number 1 in touchdowns in FBS in 2022 coming out as a rookie. You could see Malachi Corley down there. You could see Rashee Rice. You could see Marvin Harrison Jr. creeping up there at 12.63. But coming out of college, this was the number 1 wide receiver by far, by a mile. He was the number 1 wide receiver prospect when you look at the data. He almost had the hat trick. He was only 1 reception away from tying Charlie Jones, the now Cincinnati Bengal player that I haven't seen him do anything yet because he got hurt last year. Had he had 1 more reception, the Tank Dell, you would have seen him have the hat trick in fantasy football. And yet, those numbers were so glaring, and everybody ignored them. But us. Why? Because I didn't care about the size. I saw a player that was going to separate at the National Football League level. Those numbers are astronomically impressive. It's crazy looking at them and wondering where everybody was on that one. Why was everybody... So JD5, their JD5 numbers, while I don't think you need to have them, to your point, I'm sorry this is so long-winded. To your point, you don't necessarily need to have the best percentage to become the best. Tom Brady, Kurt Warner. But when you are gifted this kind of data, it goes a long way in being one of the predictable guys and being right on that. So we're always going to miss on some players. We're always not going to see players coming. But to me, this is like, how does somebody not understand what this kid's capable of with all this information just on this individual screen right here? The 50 touchdowns, the 4 INTs, number one pocket passer in terms of touchdowns, number 1 in FBS in yards per attempt, best in the last 10 years in 20+ yard completion percentage. Like, it's all right in front of your face. You know, this is the best college football quarterback by a landslide. And I don't care if he had a better situation. Who are you to say it? I'm not necessarily saying it to you, Bob, but who are you to say that he wasn't the reason he's got a better situation? Why does it fall on LSU? Because they're always good. They always have good wide receivers. Sure. But why does it not have his signature all over this to say that without him, they'd be garbage? Because they've always done really well. Well, this guy is in that system. This guy is doing that work. He is the reason this offense is scoring 50 touchdowns. So you can play this game all you want of like, well, he had a better situation. Or you could say he is the situation. And you put him in a Kingsbury offense where he's got McLaurin and Dotson, very underrated wide receivers. You draft Sinnott, one of the best rookie tight end prospects. You got Kingsbury, you got Adam Peters, probably the second best GM in football right now, behind only Caserio in Houston. And you could say Green Bay's right there. You could say, you could spit off a lot of good GMs. I mean, Philly's doing amazing things right now. Pittsburgh's obviously doing some amazing moves. Like, there are a lot of good GMs in the NFL. But I would say that Adam Peters, based on what I know about him and what I think he's going to do, is right up there at least. I would still say Caserio. What Caserio's done in Houston's been remarkable. But this guy's set up for success, man. There's no better place for him to land, and JD5 is going to go to the moon. All right, Bob, anything else, bro? Sorry about the long-winded answer.
No, you're good. I'm just saying, like you and other people say, I think it's hard for people to see Caleb's numbers because he does all the shenanigans, and the QB position is kind of a professional position. You don't play games, you don't play around, you show up, you do the job, you go home, and he does a lot of extracurriculars that, make it very hard for people to see.
But does it stand in his way, though? Thank you, Superfish, for gifting a membership to James Stark. It's done at random, and so that James got it. Thank you, Superfish. What were you saying? I asked you, do you think it gets in the way, though? Do you think he's the first quarterback to have the shenanigan approach and get away with it, and it becomes a norm, or he's the only one, but he gets away with it? Like, what is your feel on that?
I mean, it's definitely odd, but, he does have the stats. I'm not just saying that he doesn't have the stats. He does have the stats. He did 40 and 5, 40 TDs, 5 interceptions, 30 TDs, 5 interceptions. His stats weren't that bad. I mean, he played at Oklahoma, then he transferred up there. They're not that bad, and I'm that you can't disregard what JD5 has done, what other QBs have done. But,
tougher competition too. I mean,
a hell of a lot tougher competition. You be playing against O-lines that are like 250, and then in the SEC they're like 320. You can't compare that. And then you go to the next level, you add another 30, 40 pounds and a couple more inches on top of that. But all I'm saying is that he was drafted at number 1 for a reason, because he's probably the most NFL ready.
He's not. His
ceiling. He may not have the highest ceiling, but his floor is definitely higher than the rest of them.
You think Caleb's floor is higher than JD5's?
As of today, with experience and the amount of reps he's had, yeah, probably.
I 100,000% disagree for every reason you already know. But I think that he has his ceiling is nowhere near what JD5's is. Nowhere near. I don't think it's even close.
And you'll probably disagree with this too. He's probably also going into a better situation. Maybe not coaching wise, absolutely not. That's like falling off.
But that's part of the problem, though. That's part of the problem.
It's a massive dumpster fire, but his players around him, he has every single position checked off. You can't say the same in Washington.
You can't say that. You can say that about Washington.
Year out, and they'll be there.
You could say that about
one more year, and they'll be there.
You could say that about Washington. They've got a lot of pieces that are pretty nice as well. I don't think the running game in Chicago's is buttoned down as you think. Swift got absolutely annihilated last year physically and broke down the entire second half of the year. He was almost worthless. Like, we loved him. He did amazing for us. He was a moon man. But there was a point where you had to sit him. Like, he was not producing, and for string the whole entire end of the season. But so I don't know what you're going to get, honestly, in Swift, because I don't think he stays healthy after that. Kind of usually when a running back gets abused like that, especially when they're not a between the tackle runner, they're like kind of broken. They're kind of a wounded dog. So I'm going to predict that running game is not Swift led by the end of it. If they throw to him an equal amount, run to him a little bit, he could be pretty productive. But I don't know if they're gonna use him properly. As for Keenan Allen, even though I disagree with how Harbaugh got rid of him for nothing, a ham sandwich, I still think Keenan Allen is changing teams. It's going to take him a year to fully adjust, and he doesn't have 2 years. He has maybe the 1 year, and he doesn't maybe even have the 1 year. He's going to drop off physically, I think, this year. And so, like, there's that. DJ Moore and Odunze are really good. Like, that's a really good wide receiver duo to have. I'm not saying, but those are the two pieces. Like, I think McLaurin and Dotson are very, very underrated. And then you give him Brian Robinson, you give him Austin Eckler, who may or may not have anything left. It's the same argument with Keenan Allen. And then you give him a really up-and-coming, potentially like Laporta-like tight end from this class, given Laporta was not the number one tight end in his class, and he turned out to be amazing. Sinnott is a fantastic tight end, and you give him the best GM in one of the best GMs in football, and you give him a Kingsbury attack. I disagree. I would venture to say Washington could outperform Chicago this year in year one.
We'll see. I appreciate you keeping the conversation going as long as you did. I know you said you wanted to keep it short, so
all right, later, bro.
I appreciate that.
All right,
have a good night.
Later. Travis, what do you think on that? Is that crazy? Washington is better than Chicago this year. I don't think it's crazy.
No, I don't think it's crazy. I think Washington has a bit of a question on the defensive side because they got rid of Young and Sweat. But aside from that, like Chicago's defense might be a little better. But in terms of offensive weapons, I think they're pretty equal, especially with Sinnott or however you say his name, tight end now. And forget the name of the tight end they had last year. He never played. He was another young kid. He looked decent in preseason.
Yeah.
And then the running game they shored up with. B-Rob was solid, and then they got Eckler, and the receivers are fine. So
yeah,
no, I think they go head-to-head pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's very arguable because I don't know that Washington's there yet.
I think Caleb has a really low floor.
I don't understand his comment there, but hey, that's opinion. It's fine to have that opinion. But yeah, I think Caleb has such a potential bust factor, whereas JD5 doesn't. JD5, his floor is like literally a top 10 quarterback. He's still a top 10 quarterback. If he ends up not working out, he's top 10. JD5 could be, he literally could be 1, 2, 3.
Zach Wilson.
Who is?
I think Caleb could be like a Zach Wilson if he hits his floor.
Exactly.
Like if the bottom falls out.
Exactly.
I'm not saying I think he'll be that.
No,
but if everything goes wrong.
That's fair because I know it sounds insulting now, but Zach Wilson had a ceiling that was pretty good. Like people need to remember that. Like Zach Wilson was
people were very high on Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I was even high on it. Like I was high on Bryce Young too, and I admit that I've been very soured on it because of the way they've lacked the support to put around him. But like yeah, and I'm kind of excited again because I think maybe how Zach Wilson failed, and I would never bank on Zach Wilson. He's broken man. Doesn't matter if he. And can we all admit that there were moments where Zach Wilson looked good? It's just he could never string it together. Like there was times where you're like,
you saw what people liked.
Yeah, you're like, wow. Like there was a couple times with the Jets where he's starting, where you're like, wow, like that was a really good play by Zach Wilson. Like that's kind of what we thought he could be all the time. And he completely, he turned into a pumpkin, and he'll never turn back. Zach Wilson's garbage, but he had a lot of upside, but his floor was literally, like you said, even if it's hindsight, his floor was the worst quarterback in the league, and so Caleb 100% has the lowest floor out of all
really
of the top.
Goes to show how much landing spot matters, because put Zach Wilson in another place with more support, or where maybe he could have sat, 4, 5, 6 games or something, or
put
him in another place.
In very rare spurts, Superfish. Let me clarify. Zach Wilson's not even a starting quarterback, but so I'd say Caleb has the lowest floor. Means he could be the worst quarterback out of all the top 5 guys. But his ceiling, I'm not gonna just lie and be biased here. His ceiling value is a top, I would say, 5 quarterback. Like this is me being real. His ceiling is, the only problem is I believe the red flags and the obstacles are so bad. It's kind of like Johnny Football. Like Johnny Football had a ceiling value to be a top 5 quarterback, but it was never gonna happen. So like that's my fear for Caleb. I don't think he's as bad off as Johnny Football coming in. The lack of focus. Like I think Caleb's gonna be excited about the game. And I think he's, motivated to try and prove people wrong and all that. I just think he's got so many of these other things that worry and concern me, but so they're not really comparable. But the floor and ceiling values are almost identical for Johnny Football and Caleb. Like he had this bust factor, but he also had this high ceiling. Same thing with Zach Wilson. Yeah, very rare spurts. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, JD5 to me has the ability to be as a higher ceiling than Caleb and a much, much higher floor. Like he's literally a 1 to 10 quarterback. And there is a world where he's the best quarterback in the league. Like I think JD5 has that capability. Because AR5 has the capability if he was a little bit better of a passer, which he could develop. This guy's everything JD5 is on the ground, but he's also everything that Jalen Hurts is, more probably even better than Jalen Hurts throwing the ball. And so he's got everything.
Much better.
He's got everything. He's got everything. He's got everything you could ask for.
At his scouts at his pro day, they didn't say he is this guy, but they said that he has traits of C.J. Stroud throwing the ball. You know? And C.J. Stroud is a great passer. So.
Yep.
Yeah, people don't understand the potential JD5 has to be like that complete package quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the reason I called, if I can just ask a question quick before we go, I was going to ask, did the draft or landing spots change the ranking of the rookie quarterbacks at all?
It's a great question. Sean L. says JD5 isn't in the same ballpark as Caleb. Agreed. Agreed. I mean, Caleb's not even in the parking lot of JD5's ballpark. So we agree. We agree on that. Thank you, Sean L. So landing spots, we knew Chicago was going to be Caleb, so I'm not going to even go there. That was planned. Had JD5 gone to New England, I think we'd have a lesser rookie year, but maybe still close to the same potential. But I would say the risk factor goes up a little bit. Drake May, if he went to Minnesota, he'd have more value than he has in New England. I mean, anybody that went to Minnesota is going to have more value just going to Minnesota alone. But I don't know that J.J. McCarthy passed over Drake May, though, by landing in Minnesota. So if Penix Jr. would have went to LV, he would have been everyone's number 2 or 3, or at least 3 quarterback, I think. And so Penix Jr.'s value took a huge hit because he can't be used. So yeah, I mean the landing spots were definitely traumatic to some more than others, but I think at the end of the day, it doesn't change my ranking of it being JD5, Penix Jr. as my number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks of this draft class.
How about Bo Nix? Because I know you don't like Peyton, like you're in a Broncos situation, but you like Nix. I think Nix could be good with Peyton if Peyton has anything.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, Nix is my 3rd quarterback. For the Caleb people in here, they're probably like, wait a minute. Did you just say Caleb wasn't in your top 3 quarterbacks? Yes, I've said that since January, and I haven't wavered one time. So Bo Nix was my 3. I have to say that Drake May and him feel very close now, and I don't really know. But Denver was my fear. I was hoping Nix would go to LV and throw to Adams and play with Pierce and get developed there. But I do believe that if there is a quarterback capable of taking over this team and being great, especially getting Franklin, his wide receiver in college, the familiarity there. Yeah. I like that. Nix is probably one of the more.
Wants to do.
Nix is a playmaker. He has a lot of that Patrick Mahomes creativity to his game. Where I'm not calling him Mahomes, I'm just saying, like you're tackling him, he switches hands and shuffles it. Like he's so good at side arming a throw into a weird window that's real low in the end zone that there's no way to get the football into the end zone that way. And you just like this guy is just so creative. And I believe he had four plays that he was involved in last year that were turnovers. 4 plays.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, fumble and then 3 INTs, I think.
And
that's
and
crazy.
He fits that system because, like, I saw a lot of people that would say, "Oh, Penix, Sean Payton's going to want Penix," and I kept saying, "No, he doesn't want it. He doesn't like guys that just push it down the field. Why do you think Russell Wilson didn't work at all in that system? Which worries me a little with Pittsburgh, which is why I think Fields could take it over. Because no, sorry, I have that wrong. Pittsburgh wants to push it down the field. Excuse me. That's why it could be decent in Pittsburgh, but it didn't work in Denver because Sean Payton isn't a deep ball, push it down the field type of guy.
I'll say this: I don't want to say Penix Jr. is not my number 2 quarterback because I think he's absolutely phenomenal, and he's got the best situation out of everybody. He's got a better situation than JD5 once he gets in. He's got Breece Hall, he's got Breece Hall, he's got Bijan Robinson, he's got Drake London, he's got Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's got an amazing arsenal, and he's got a good defense. He's got a good offensive line, a good defense. It's a phenomenal spot for Penix Jr. But dare I say that Bo Nix he's such a good quarterback. He is, I think he's a prospect, good prospect. I don't know how it's going to translate. He has a little bit of that. Could he turn into, go from Zach Wilson, the prospect, amazing prospect, Trevor Lawrence, the prospect, amazing prospect, to what Trevor Lawrence is today? Not what Trevor Lawrence still could be if he evolves properly. I think there's still hope for Trevor Lawrence. But what Trevor Lawrence is today, where you're I don't know. Could Nix turn into that player where you're he could. There's the possibility in Denver. But I really think Nix is such a crafty quarter. I'm very excited for Bo Nix. I hope Bo Nix proves everyone wrong, and I hope that Penix Jr. and Bo Nix are equals. I really hope that that's true, and it could be. It could be. Look, by January, number 1 quarterback, JD5, without hesitation. Penix Jr., my number 2 quarterback, without a hesitation. So much so I put these guys on the Moon Men, Mars Men, Saturn Men list. I forget where they were at. But I put them on very, very early, and I think it was January, just to make sure that they were on there before anybody could even talk about these guys. And then Penix Jr. played in his in the national championship game and did bad, and I had already had him on the list, and everybody kind of was take him off. I'm no, I'm not taking Penix Jr. off. He's not even going to go in the first round, Smitty. You watch, he will. He went inside the top 10. I didn't move him at all, and I have not wavered on my quarterback rankings. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Excel sheet Eric that doesn't maneuver. I'm just meaning that my conviction is not moved. It's JD5, it's Penix Jr., it's Bo Nix, and then everyone else is, in my opinion, in a different conversation. And I think JD5 is in his own tier. But Penix Jr. could climb into that tier at some point if he gets a starting job, and then we'll talk about where he's at. But I think Bo Nix has the ability to be a top 12 NFL and fantasy football quarterback. It's just the likelihood of 3 of them happening like that are low, so you got to believe the possibility of someone busting, but there's a real shot that all 3 are that good. And as you've heard me not mention Caleb in any of this conversation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these rookies end up, because like you said, at least a few of them aren't going to be top 10 guys like a lot of people think.
Did Caleb get measured at the at his pro day?
Pro day. Not sure.
Or did he pass on that? I'm curious if he did, because the other thing about Caleb too is a lot of people are a little bit worried about his height. But did he actually measure in at 6'1", or is that stretching it and he's actually 6 foot something? Because there's also that concern with Caleb is his height. Nix's hands are large.
Measured at USC's pro day, came in at 6 foot and 7/8 inches.
So he's not even 6'1".
217 pounds.
So he's under 6'1". So he's not 6'1".
At the combine, he measured 6'1" and then 8 inches and weighed at 214 pounds. So he measured half an inch taller at the combine.
Well, I guess the believers will say the 6'1's right. And the haters will say the 6 foot's right.
He's basically 6'1", just a touch under.
Yeah.
You know, same with JD5, a touch under 6'4".
Yeah.
So, and his hand size was like 9 3/4, 9 7/8. The height is interesting. I mean, we know you don't have to be tall, but
I said we do a private draft. Let me drop a private draft on Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Smitty. Use code Smitty to claim your special pick. Plus, first time deposit offer up to $250. So, just make that deposit, that first time deposit, and then you're potentially in the running for extra cash. And they do it randomly. But Underdog's very, very good about being so generous with that stuff. Okay, let me see. We'll go to NFL. We'll create a private league. This will be a $3 12-person slow draft, private draft. Let me copy the info here and paste it in. And this won't be in the big, you know, the big tournament or anything. This is gonna be a $3. The winner wins like $20 or something like that. But it'll be like a fun league that goes the distance. It doesn't like divide up, but we stay in a group of 12 through week 17 and see who wins. You can even click the little info button at the top and rename it like Smitty Draft, and then you can monitor it all here.
Right. I like these though.
Yeah.
Especially when we're doing it together, and then everyone's sniping. It kind of forces you to draft a little different and try some different things.
Yeah, Penix Jr. 6'3", JD5's almost 6'4". What was Drew? Wasn't Drew Brees was like 6 foot exactly, right? But they always said he was a smidge. Sure. He was a smidge under or something, because like back then they lied about all the numbers.
I know.
Yeah, it's always been a problem though. When you're right around 6 foot, it's always like it's another red flag or whatever. But if he's almost 6'1", it's a little bit better. You can. It's not the be all end all, but it's just another thing that, you know, we don't ever talk about on here. It's another red. People want another red flags. There are a lot of red flags.
Yeah, I mean, it helps being a little bit taller, you know.
You know what's a crazy stat? You wouldn't think it, but Jalen Hurts is only 6'1". Like you would think that he was like 6'3" or 6'4". Like he looks like a huge dude, like height wise, because he's just a monster.
I know.
But that's never affected him, so he's 6'1". But I think he's over 6'1". But he's probably not a full inch or anything over Caleb, so it's not like Caleb is that far off him. I believe Fields is 6'4". Isn't that correct?
I think so. He's a big guy.
Yeah, people don't realize how big Justin Fields is.
He's listed at 6'3" on.
Yeah, okay, 6'3". He's 6'3". Yeah, he must have been listed at 6'4", measured in at 6'3", because everyone's always shorter than they proclaim to be.
Herbert's a monster, right? He's like 6'6", I think.
Yeah, so is Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He's 8 feet.
Yeah. Drake May, 6'5".
Yeah, it's always good to be like 6'3" or higher.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say they think May's going to sit. He might sit for a little bit, but I think he plays more than half the year, honestly. And people keep saying, oh, they're definitely going to sit him, but if he's by far the best guy, they're going to play him. I mean, they might sit him a game or two just to get him comfortable, but if he's that good, they're going to play him.
Let's see.
I was going to ask you too, just a kind of selfish question about the Patriots. For Dynasty, do you like Polk or Baker better?
I put my balls on the line and just take Baker. I don't know.
Me too. That's
It
kind
could
of
it could backfire, but it's fun. You know, and I don't think either one's breaking the bank.
No. Yeah.
But clearly you can draft Baker way after Polk, though. Tebow says you don't draft a QB third. I agree, but it sounds like they might, bro. He's not sitting for Zappy. He's sitting for, what's his name?
I think Zappy could be gone.
Yeah, it's what's his face?
It's Jacoby Brissett.
The brisket. Tebow.
Yeah,
it's the Briskinator.
Joe Milton's going to be the third guy.
God, I love Joe Milton. I so wish the Cardinals took Joe Milton. God.
Yeah, I was happy. I was very surprised. I'd seen a couple people, beat writers, talk about it, but didn't think the Patriots should do it. I was surprised.
I love the guy as a backup quarterback. I think it's such a good move.
And he's not as bad of a passer as people say. He's got a lot of work to do, but he wasn't god awful.
Yeah, the Briskinators. One reason you want to start him, you might want to start the Brisket over him is because he's such a good backup. Potentially, he might fall apart or whatever. That you don't want him sitting behind a struggling rookie. You almost want to send him out there.
Yeah.
And if God forbid he wins and you guys are killing it, you just keep him in, and then you just wait. You just wait. Because there's no harm in that. You're not going to, if you're winning, who cares? It's not like anybody's going to think of him as the future if he has a good year. Like Joe Flacco was winning. Like no one was delusional and like, oh, this guy's going to be the long-term answer. Is just like ride this hot hand for a while. But if you put May in and he struggles and the Brisket comes in and saves the day, then like you have a problem, you know? So I can kind of understand. And on top of that, like New England's not winning. And like, put your earmuffs on, Travis. They're not winning anything this year.
Unrealistic.
So, like, in a way, you take a dive for a quarter of a season, and then you're adding a monster, like in the top 10 next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
You know what's funny? You're talking about the different heights and stuff.
Join this league, guys.
There's a Pro Football Reference, and then there's like College Football Reference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a ton of guys in College Football Reference are like 1 to 2 to 3 inches taller than Pro Football Reference lists them. Like Rashad White he's listed at 6'2". He's 6 feet tall. And then other guys like Polk and Baker listed at like 6'2", and they're really like 6'1". I'm guessing it's just because they like exaggerate it in college probably a little bit. Like they're just getting it off the college website or whatever. But it's kind of funny looking at them.
Yeah.
Rashad White definitely isn't 6'2".
Mm-hmm. I'm so excited for JD5, man. I'm so excited for JD5.
He'd be fun. And he like, selfishly, I would have loved to see him in New England. I'm happy with Mag, but would have loved to see him in New England. But in terms of, NFL and fantasy, he went to the right place. Like, he went to the place he should have gone. With that offense and, already some weapons around him. So, if you want to see him excel right away.
Yeah. All right, Travis. We'll see you later. Thanks for doing the Dynasty show tonight.
Yep. Thanks, man. Talk to you later.
Short one tonight.
Right.
Only 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Yeah, only.
Damn it.
Later.
I swore I'd do an hour show tonight maximum. 2 hours and 15 minutes now. All right. Hey, appreciate all of you. Thank you for my super chatters. Rock Out, Coble, Superfish, Benji, Matt, and Aaron dropping wads and my celebratory messages. I have Sick Nasty. Appreciate you dropping your question. And my gifted membership, Superfish, dropping one. And the lucky random, because there's no way to designate it, random recipient of Superfish's gifted membership was James Stark. I'll see you all tomorrow. Appreciate you watching the Dynasty channel. Until tomorrow, I am out, and I'll see you tomorrow a couple times, at least once before the 8 p.m. show. Don't forget to get on over to the main channel, That's where we'll be. You know, this is the Dynasty channel. Subscribe if you're new. We're almost at 2K subscribers on this channel, and we haven't been going live on it at all, so that's awesome. But subscribe if you're new. If you're watching, you might not even know you're watching the Dynasty channel. It was recommended to you, and you just think we're on the main channel. So subscribe if you're new, and don't forget to see me here tomorrow during the day, and then 8 p.m. every single Monday through Friday. Don't forget about thefantasyfootballshow.com, which is your year-round rankings and bold predictions and all that. So I'll see you all later. Appreciate you. Sorry if everybody, for those of you that love Caleb and the Bears, don't mean to try and tear down the Bears, or, you know, and again, I wish the best for Caleb. I do. It's my job to give my honest opinion, and that's the way I feel. But I don't wish my Bear followers a bad year or anything. And quite honestly, you had a big supporter in me last year with Fields. I just think Fields should have been the guy you kept and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and got rid of Eberflus and gone a different direction. But it is what it is. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank God you guys passed on Marvin Harrison Jr. because he's not a the Bears. He's a Cardinal.
Hi.
The Cardinals.
What would you like? Footballs, please. Lots of footballs, please. Coming up.
He's Marvin, he's 11 feet tall, and he loves to consume the football. He's Kyler, he's 4 feet tall, but starring Marvin will answer the call. They're Kyler and Marvin.
Liftoff of mission 3, 2, 1, 0.
The Texans. Deuces. Appreciate you all.